Okay, so my name's Lee. I'm with the Massapequa Public Library. We're really glad today that Roxana Savaria from the National Park Service is able to come down and do a great presentation for us on the Fire Island National Seashore. Really interesting place, and we're just really glad today that she's able to give this talk. So once again, welcome, and thanks again, Roxana, for the talk.
Of course, I'm excited to be here. Hi, everyone. I'm Roxana. I'm a park ranger, and today we're going to be talking about our local national treasure, Fire Island National Seashore. All right. So before we get started, we're just going to be going over a physical description of the seashore. So Fire Island is a barrier island that stretches 32 miles along Long Island's south shore, and it protects the mainland from the powerful Atlantic Ocean. It's one of over 400 national parks, monuments, and battlefields, but it's only one of 10 seashores within the Park Service. Fire Island also encompasses the historic William Floyd Estate, which is in Mastic Beach on the mainland. Now, this is an aerial view of Fire Island. So the island is subject to dynamic change that's brought about by wind and the ocean currents. Barrier islands are always changing. Their shorelines are built up and eroded on a daily basis by winds and waves. These changes can be subtle. You don't really notice them day to day, and they can be kind of hard to see. So this aerial perspective is a really great way to give us an idea of how the barrier island landscape changes over time. Now, this photo is looking west towards the Fire Island's lighthouse. As you can see, the lighthouse looks like it's in the center of the island. So when it was first built, the lighthouse was built to the left of where it is now. The lighthouse was once at the end of the inlet, and because of the way that the sand moves along the beach, the island has been extended about 6 miles westward. So now it's more in the middle of the island. Now, this is a cross section of the sunken forest area on Fire Island. This is a great example of the geologic profile, and you can see that we have a variety of different ecosystems. And I'm going to be going over the different parts of the cross section in the next few slides. Now here we see the primary dune. The primary dune is the one that faces the ocean, and it's the most dynamic. It's being shaped by wind and water on a daily basis. On the areas of the island that are large enough to accommodate a secondary dune, there's not many parts on the island where we do have a secondary dune. And where there is one, there is an ecosystem between the primary and the secondary dune that's called the swale. The swale tends to be really hot and is that area where you're going to find a lot of those like low-lying plants that can tolerate the heat and sand. The secondary dune tends to be the older of the two dunes, and in areas like the sunken forest, it's the one that supports trees. Here we have a picture of the salt marsh over at Watch Hill. On the bayside, the salt marsh is on the bayside facing the Great South Bay, and there's several grasses that are regularly flooded by high tides. And the salt marsh is a really important ecosystem for quite a few reasons. One being that it serves as a nursery for a variety of fish and crabs. It also is a really important feeding ground for a lot of migratory birds, and it also provides a source of food for fishermen since it's like that really important breeding nursery. It also serves as protection during really big storms, and it's like a sponge. It helps filter out any runoff or any pollutants that might be in the water, especially after a really big storm. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the establishment of Fire Island as a national seashore. Many of you have probably heard of Robert Moses. He was head of both the New York and Long Island State Park Commissions for 40 years through various state administrations in Albany and under various titles. One of the biggest things that Robert Moses wanted to do is expand the existing park system and build a network of parkways that would allow the public to access these new parks a lot easier. One of his proposed projects was the construction of a road that ran the length of Fire Island, meaning that you would be able to drive from one end to the other end of the island. And that idea was not popular amongst residents. So in 1963, Riverhead Congressman Otis Pike was one of the authors of a bill that effectively blocked the construction of that road in the National Seashore. And then Fire Island was established in 1964. So the Otis Pike Fire Island High Dune Wilderness was created in 1980 as the only federally designated wilderness in New York State. And it's one of the smallest wilderness areas managed by the National Park Service. And that's at 2.16 square miles or 1,380 acres. So I'm sure many of you are wondering, how did Fire Island get its name? Well, there's a few stories on how the island potentially got its name. So one of them has to do with this picture right here, leaves of 3, leave 'em be. So this is a poison ivy plant. As you can see, the plant has kind of a reddish orange look to it, which almost looks like it's on fire. There's so much poison ivy on Fire Island that in the fall, when it all starts to turn this color, it gives the illusion of the island being on fire. So it's really pretty, but I also wouldn't want to go near the poison ivy. And one of my favorite stories is about pirates. So prior to the lighthouse being built, volunteers would light fires along the beach to let ships know that there was a safe harbor. Now, there were land pirates that would build fires along the beach to trick sailors into running their ships aground. And when they would run their ship aground, they would go aboard and loot their ships. So that one's a lot fun, like a funner for the pirates and for me to tell, but not the people who were running aground. And then the third and the most probable in terms of how the island got its name is it's a story about the number of inlets. So there's 5 islands in the area, and there's this word veer in Dutch, meaning 4 or 5, and it's believed that it was just misspelled. So it was like a mistake in translation. You know, now we have maps that are printed and we're able to copy them a lot easier. And then back in the day, people had to physically copy a map by hand. So it's almost like a game of telephone, just got mistranslated down along the way. Now, this is a map of Fire Island National Seashore. It's the same one that we have in our brochures. And one thing that I do want to point out, and one thing that makes Fire Island really unique, is that there are 17 private communities within its border. And then I'm just going to turn on my pointer really quick because I want to point some things out. So along the bay, you can see these lines, and these are supposed to be our ferry services. So we have ferries that run from Bayshore, Sayville, and Patchogue, and those are just some of the ways that you can access Fire Island. And there are 5 main visitor centers. I'm gonna turn the laser pointer on again just so I can point them out. So I'm gonna go from west to east. Furthest out west, we have the Lighthouse. A little further in, we have our Sailors Haven Visitor Center right over here. Then we have Talisman and Barrett Beach. That one isn't a visitor center, but it is like encompassed within Fire Island National Seashore. We also have a visitor center at Watch Hill. And our furthest east point is the Fire Island Wilderness Visitor Center. And up here in this right corner, it's cut off a little bit because my picture is too large, but it also encompasses the historic William Floyd Estate in Mastic Beach. And that one is on Long Island, but it's still part of the seashore. All right, so here we have a view of the Fire Island Lighthouse, and this is located towards the western end of Fire Island, and it's also located right next to Robert Moses State Park. So the lighthouse stands at 168 feet tall, and it's 182 steps from the bottom to the top of the tower. So the lighthouse began operation in 1858, and it replaced the original lighthouse, which was built in 1826. So the United States Coast Guard decommissioned the light in 1974, but in 1982, the Fire Island Lighthouse Preservation Society was formed, and its main goal was to restore the light and the tower. So in 1968, a few years after the Preservation Society got together, the lighthouse was returned to service. And this picture that I have right here is what the lighthouse looks like as she stands today. So the original lighthouse was like a cream color, and in 1891, it was painted to look the way that it does now with these day marks. So every lighthouse has its unique day marks that it's visible to ship captains from the sea. And there are also exhibits in the keeper's quarters in the lighthouse, and it's like a 2-floor. So you have exhibits on the first floor and the second floor, in addition to the tower. And then here we have a picture of the original first order Fresnel lens, which was in the Fire Island Lighthouse. And it kind of has this like really intricate beehive shape to it. It's made of brass, and there are a variety of prisms in the glass. And this light served as a beacon to mariners from the top of the lighthouse from 1858 to 1933. And now it's on display at the Fresnel Lens Building, and that's just another thing that you could do at the lighthouse. So when you first walk up, you have the Fresnel Lens Building on display, and there's a little bit about the history of the light in there. And then if you keep walking towards the lighthouse, that's where you have the museum as well as tower tours. So this light was taken out of service and displayed at the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia from 1939 to 2000, and it was returned to Fire Island National Seashore in 2011. And for those of you who are interested in visiting the lighthouse, it is accessible by driving to Robert Moses State Park and parking in Field 5. So there's a sign that says Fire Island National Seashore, and there's a boardwalk. If you walk towards that sign and follow the boardwalk all the way down, it's about 3/4 of a mile, which about 15 to 20 minutes based on your pace, and it's all boardwalk. And for anyone who is handicap accessible, there are, I believe, 2 to 3 handicap parking spots right at the lighthouse, so you wouldn't have to do the walk. All right, so here we have Sailor's Haven and the Sunken Forest. So this is the first thing you see at the trailhead when you arrive at the Sunken Forest. So Sailor's Haven is accessible by ferry from Sayville or on foot from the nearby communities. Cherry Grove and the Fire Island Pines are 2 of the closest, and they're also accessible through the Sayville ferry service. Now there is also a marina, a visitor center, and lifeguarded beaches in the summer. Sailor's Haven is home to the Sunken Forest, and the boardwalk takes you through this 300-year-old maritime holly forest. And one of the really neat things about the Sunken Forest is that it's one of 2 globally rare ecosystems. So there's only one other place like it in the entire world, and that's in Sandy Hook, New Jersey. And this is also a really good place for viewing wildlife. You're likely to encounter deer, fox, and many species of birds, maybe even a turtle. But yeah, I really like going there. If you're ever able to stop out there, it's really nice. And this is just another view of the sunken forest. So the trees in the sunken forest create a canopy between the secondary dune and the salt marsh. And it kind of creates this illusion that you're below sea level. But the sunken forest isn't sunken below sea level. It's sunken between that primary and the secondary dune. So that's another, those dunes protect the forest. And it's one of the reasons that we're able to have this really cool ecosystem on Fire Island. Now, this is a picture of Barrett Beach, also known as Talisman. It's located directly opposite Sayville, and it can be reached by private boat or from some of the nearby communities. There isn't a marina at this site, but there is a dock so that you can unload or load pretty quickly. And there is a lot of room to anchor out. And there are also lifeguards there, typically on the weekends. All right, so this is a picture of the Watch Hill Boardwalk Trail. And Watch Hill is located along the western edge of the Otis Pike Fire Island High Dune Wilderness. And it's directly across the Great South Bay from Patchogue. So Watch Hill is accessible by ferry. There is a ferry service that runs straight out of Patchogue, and that one actually has free parking. You can also access Watch Hill from Davis Park, and Davis Park also has a ferry that goes there, but there is also parking for Davis Park, but that one does have a fee. I'm not entirely sure of the rates, but I know that if you're a town resident, it is a little cheaper. But you can also walk to Watch Hill from Davis Park. There's a boardwalk along most of the way, or you could walk along the beach, and it's a little less than a mile. And at Watch Hill, we do have a nature trail. It's a great way to view the salt marsh ecosystem on the bayside, and there are plenty of birds to see. It's a great place for those long-legged waders like herons and egrets. And it's also a really good place for feeding. So you tend to see a lot of different birds, especially around migration season. It's a really good place to see birds on their, like, that are just stopping by. And there is also a restaurant at Watch Hill. There's also a general store. There's facilities available like restrooms. All right, so then our furthest east site is the Wilderness Visitor Center, and you can access the Wilderness Visitor Center by car. You can drive down William Floyd Parkway and cross the bridge to Smith Point County Park. And there is a really big county lot that you park in. I know that they charge from 9 to 5. I'm not entirely sure of the rates, but again, if you are a county resident and if you have a green key, I know that the rates are a lot lower. And they do also stop charging after 5 p.m. So if you're interested in going after 5, it's free. There is also like a 15-minute parking lot. So if you wanted to just walk down to the beach quick or load your stuff off and then walk and park in the big lot, that's another option as well. So one of the things that you can do when visiting the Wilderness Visitor Center is hike down to the breach at Old Inlet. So the breach was created in 2012 by Superstorm Sandy, and I want to say it's about 1.5 to 2 mile walk, depending on the tide. And so a thing about the breach is that it is considered a temporary feature by the National Park Service. It's believed that it will close on its own with time, and it is not recommended to swim in the breach because there's such a strong current going from the ocean to the Great South Bay that it's just, not safe to do so. But it is also a really great spot for fishing. I always see fishermen down there, either on the surf side or the bay side. So that's a really fun thing to do there. And this is just an aerial image of what the breach looks like. This is an older photo. So there is a professor at Stony Brook University called Dr. Charles Flagg, and he flies over the breach a few times throughout the year to take aerial photographs of what the breach looks like. I believe the last time they went out was March 2021, but there's a website that you can go learn more about the Great South Bay project if this is something that interests you. They post their aerial photos as well as they like overlap them and make a mosaic very similar to this photo. And then with that mosaic, they can kind of learn about how much the breach is either increasing or decreasing in size. And there's also like sand and clay in this area, and based on the current, it will move around. So it's a really cool way to see how it's been changing over time. And then we also have the William Floyd Estate, which is that site that's located in Mastic Beach. And this historic home belongs to one of the 4 signers of the Declaration of Independence. So William Floyd was born in the house in 1734. And in 1976, William Floyd's great-great-granddaughter, Miss Cornelia Floyd Nichols, and her children donated the house to the National Park Service. This house is a preservation of the artifacts from the Floyd family that span for more than 250 years. The home, the grounds, outbuildings, and the family cemetery tell a story of the 3 centuries of American life. So the house itself is one of the cool things to see, but there are also like historic little outbuildings throughout the grounds. And there's also a family cemetery. And then we did also just create a self-guided trail within the National Park Service app. So if you wanted to go out there and there wasn't anyone there, you are able to do a guided tour. It's about an hour long, and it tells you a little bit about the history of the family, about the buildings on the grounds, as well as the cemetery. So it's a really cool thing to do. All right, so what are things that you can see at Fire Island National Seashore? You can see sand, seashells, a variety of plant life, variety of animals, and marine creatures. And I'll be going over some of them in the next few slides. All right, so we have sand. That might seem a little boring, but one of the cool things about Fire Island sand is that we have 3 main types of sand. We have quartz sand, which is the white sand, and then we also have a combination of garnet sand and magnetite sand, which is that darker sand that you tend to see on the beach, especially after those really stormy days. All right, you can also see a variety of shells. We have surf clams, moon snails, whelk, hard clams, also known as wampum, and scallops. You could also see horseshoe crabs and a variety of egg cases along the beach. All right, and these are some of the plants that we could see. So up here in the top left, we have some beach plum blossoms. On the right, we have some sassafras. On the lower left, we have American holly. And then on the bottom right, we have some ripe beach plums. And those are just some of the berries and plants that you could see here. Leaves of 3, let them be. There is also poison ivy on Fire Island. So that's another thing you'll be seeing out here. And at least now you know what it looks like, so you can avoid it. All right, we also have red fox at Fire Island National Seashore. We have some white-tailed deer. The fawns have white spots when they're born that helps them camouflage from predators. They're also born with no scent, so their mom could leave them alone while they feed. And when they come back, the deer will most likely still be where she left it. All right, and then here we have a box turtle. I have yet to see a box turtle this season. I've been trying so hard. My coworkers have seen one before me, and they've just gotten so lucky. They've like been on a stroll and seen one, but they're out there. I just haven't seen one yet, but they're there. Their camouflage is that good. So as you can see here, their shell helps them blend in on the forest floor. It's probably why I haven't been able to find one. And these are a couple of birds at the seashore. This top bird is a catbird, and it's frequent in wooded areas. It does sound like a cat. It has like a very distinct meow noise. So I think that's really fitting of the name. And then on the bottom right here, we have a red-winged blackbird, and these birds are really common in the salt marsh. And like many other species of bird, with the red-winged blackbird, the male is the one that has that really pretty painted wing, and the females are more of like a reddish black overall color. All right, and here we have a yellow warbler. There are a variety of different warblers that travel through Fire Island. Some of them call it home, and some of them merely just stop by on a migration. But yellow warblers, such as this one, do also nest at Fire Island. And here we have some piping plovers. So from mid-March until after Labor Day, visitors share the beach with piping plovers. These migratory birds winter along the South Atlantic, the Gulf Coast, and the Caribbean beaches, but return to Fire Island to nest and raise their young. And right here we have a plover nest. So the eggs are well camouflaged in these shallow bowls in the sand. So plovers, when they nest, they don't really build a nest. They kind of scrape and make a little shallow depression, and that's where they lay their eggs. And here we have four plover eggs, and typically they'll lay 3 to 4 eggs with their nest. We also have other types of shorebirds. We have some sanderlings and ruddy turnstones in this picture. The ruddy turnstone is the slightly bigger one, and it has almost like that dark red color to it. And you'll typically see these birds at the ocean edge. It's kind of cute in my opinion. So when the wave comes in, they like run back from the wave, but when it recedes back out, they run back into the water, and they try to get food during that like in between period. We also have marine mammals such as whales, dolphins, and this harbor seal. During the winter, seals really love to haul out over by the Wilderness Visitor Center. This past winter, we had a couple of sightings, which is really exciting. All right, and then some national parks have bears and moose, but we have one of the oldest species on Earth, and that is horseshoe crabs. So horseshoe crabs are commonly referred to as living fossils, and that's because they've been around for over 250 million years. They're more closely related to spiders than they are to crabs. And then right here on this bottom picture, you see that the horseshoe crab is on its back. If you ever do see a horseshoe crab turned over like that, you just want to gently grab it by its sides and flip it over. They are harmless. They don't have sharp claws or anything, and their tail is not a stinger. I know it can look kind of scary, but they mainly use it as a rudder to flip themselves over. And it is also a sensory organ. It does have like light, simple eyes along it that can tell if it's light or dark. All right, so we're just going to go over some things to do while at Fire Island National Seashore. So here we have a picture of the beach. It's a great place to sunbathe and enjoy a cool ocean breeze. I find that whenever I get really hot out in the mainland, I like to walk down to the ocean because there's always that nice breeze. You can go shelling, go for a walk. And then we do also have bay beaches, but they're not as large as the ocean beaches. Another thing that you can do is make art. I guess this will be a good opportunity to tell some of you about an art program that we have this Sunday, the 25th, over at Watch Hill. It's with our local Bellport artist, David Adams, and we try to do a workshop with him at each site at least once every summer. So if anyone's interested, definitely check out our program calendar and to learn a little more. Another thing that you can do at Fire Island is fishing. And this is fishing on the bay side. You can also go surf fishing and clamming and crabbing. We do occasionally do fishing and seining programs. I know that we have a snapper derby coming up in August if anyone's interested in attending that. And we are also doing a seining program on Saturday. And seining is like net fishing. We have like a 6-foot net and we just drag it along the water and see what we can find. But there's a variety of different things at Fire Island, like a variety of different fish species and crab species, so and shellfish. All right, and this is just a reminder that if you are interested in fishing, to check out the regulations with the Department of Environmental Conservation. You can check dec.ny.gov. They do get updated pretty frequently because certain species have closures once they've reached a catch limit. So it's important to make sure that you check or are just up to date before you go out. Recreational fishermen of 16 years of age and older are also required to have a saltwater fishing registration card. You can get it for free and you can obtain it online. Or at any tackle shop. Most of them can provide them. Another thing to do is boating. So Sailor's Haven and Watch Hill have a marina. I think I might have forgotten to mention when I went over Watch Hill that it has a marina, but it has over 100 slips. So it's one of the the biggest marina on Fire Island. So if you're lucky enough to have your own boat, you can boat on over to Watch Hill or Sailor's Haven. And the marina slips are run by the park concessionaire and they're called Love Fins. Fins is F-I-N-S, and that's like an acronym for Fire Island National Seashore. Another thing that you can do at Fire Island is go hiking and camping. So a recent addition of Watch Hill is tent camping sites. You can make reservations through the lovefins.com website, and those are run through the concession. I believe they have 13 campsites. I'm not too sure on that number, but they give you like a good space. So you get a tent with some rain flies, it has a bed, you get a cooler, there's like a picnic area, it includes water and heat. And some people will commonly refer to that as glamping, but it's still a lot of fun. And then we do also have backcountry wilderness camping. And now permits for that are obtained through a different website. You would go to recreation.gov for that. And camping in the high dune wilderness is available year round. I believe that with the campsite camping, that might only be during certain times of the year, but the backcountry camping is all year long. And the backcountry camping is a true pack in, pack out camping. So there's no amenities. You'd have to bring everything with you. And we do have potable water. So as long as you bring your water bottles, you should be okay. And this backcountry camping starts 1 mile east of Watch Hill and goes all the way down before the beach at Old Inlet. And then spots do fill up pretty fast, I've noticed. So if you're interested in backcountry camping, I would recommend trying to, reserve your spot in advance. Same with the glamping sites. They do fill up pretty quickly. So if that's something you're interested in doing, I'd really recommend checking it out beforehand. All right, and then another thing, I mentioned it briefly before, but I just wanted to recommend downloading the National Park Service app. It has interactive maps, park tours, such as the William Floyd Estate Tour. It lets you know where within the park we have amenities such as restrooms, concessions, food, water, and it's also a great place to get those news, alerts, and events. And then one thing that I think is fantastic is that you can use this app offline. So I know personally there's certain spots on Fire Island where I don't have the best cell service, but you're able to download the park or multiple parks that you're going to in advance. So you can open the app and still be able to use it even if you don't have service, which is really nice too. If like you're going to the William Floyd Estate and you don't really have the best service there, you can download the tour in advance and it won't use your cellular data. And this park app is available for iOS and Android devices. So you can download it for free either in the App Store or through Google Play. But yeah, I think it's really nice. It's nice because there was a national park app before, but it wasn't as interactive. Like this one has maps and it's really like nice and it moves quickly too. It doesn't really lag too much. All right, so that's the end of my presentation. We hope that you can visit Fire Island this summer. When you do visit, please keep a few safety points in mind. There isn't a lot of shade, so make sure you wear a hat and use sunblock. It's really important to stay hydrated, especially on these really hot days. I know we had a heat advisory this past weekend, so you know, I made sure to have a lot of water on hand. And we do have like water fountains at most of our sites. So if you bring a reusable water bottle, you can always fill it up when you're at our sites. And if you do plan to swim, stay near a lifeguarded beach. All of our beaches on the ocean side are lifeguarded. So those are a good place to swim. And then make on trails and boardwalks to avoid poison ivy and ticks. You can bring your dog, but just be wary that they aren't allowed everywhere. Dogs aren't allowed on the ocean beach due to the nesting piping plovers, but that's up until Labor Day. And they are allowed on the bay beaches as well. So because the plovers don't nest on the bay beaches, so they're allowed there. And they can come with you on the boardwalks. So just plan accordingly if you do want to bring your dog. They can be a bark ranger too. It's like a program that we have. And now these are just some websites where you can find more information. nps.gov/FIIS is our park website. That's a really good place to learn more about each of the sites that we visited today. You can learn a little bit more about the flora and fauna in the park. And there is also a section highlighting park research. So you can learn a little bit about what scientists within the park are doing. And then we also post important updates on there, like beach closures or any safety updates. So that's also a really important place to check before you come out and plan your visit. dec.ny.gov is a good place to check before coming out for fishing or clamming. They'll let you know if you can still go after what it is that you have in mind. And now these two websites on the bottom are the websites for the camping. So lovefins.com, that's the park concessionaire. And you can book your marina slip as well as your campsite camping through them. And then recreation.gov/permits is where you would go for the backcountry camping. But we do also have off-road vehicle driving over at the Wilderness Visitor Site, and that starts towards the end of September. So that is where you would go if you wanted to get an off-road vehicle permit as well. And another important reminder is to just, observe current guidelines and social distancing and public health measures in regards to COVID. I know that things are opening back up, but there are still certain capacities in place, and everything is changing every day. So I would just say check the website before coming out, just to make sure that everything is good to go. Oh, and this website up top here, the nps.gov website, is another really good place to check for our visitor center hours. All of our centers kind of have different hours. Some of them, due to the ferry schedule, we depend on the ferry to get out there. So I would just say, check the website for visitor center hours. We do have a calendar on the website as well, so you can learn more about tours, special programs for families or the kids. But yeah, so right now, I believe it's posted until July, but I would say check pretty regularly. We try to have the month on the calendar before the month happens. So you'll know about programs at the Lighthouse, Wilderness, Watch Hill, Sailor's Haven, and the William Floyd Estate. And if you'd like more information about any of our programs or about the park in general, or if you're a school teacher or like a Boy or Girl Scout troop leader, you can email FIIS_information@nps.gov for more information, or to try to schedule a field trip or a tour. But this is the end of my presentation. So if anyone has any questions about the park, any of our sites, what to do at the seashore, feel free to throw it down in the chat, or we can unmute you, I think, and you could ask us that way as well.
It's not a question, but it's a comment. The last time we went, my children were small. They now have children older than they were when we were there. But we had such a wonderful time. And I have to give a credit to you park rangers, because anytime we asked a question, anything we wanted to know, and the kids were taught how to do the net in the water and seine and get fish. And it was really a fantastic outing. And I just want to let you know that we really enjoyed it. And I guess it's sad that we've gone back by boat. Now our boat isn't working, but we went by boat when I was youngest still. But now we haven't been back in a while, but I have very fond memories. It was wonderful.
Thank you. We honestly love hearing things like that. Because we do also have a junior ranger program. I'm not sure if that was a thing when you were a kid. But it's like a series of books, and they have a variety of activities in them, so the children can learn more about the seashore in a more like a fun, approachable way. And then at the end, when they complete their book, we can swear them in as junior rangers, and each book has its own patch or badge. And I mean, I really enjoy it because it's really exciting to swear in the junior rangers. And then sometimes the kids will kind of form their own like little junior ranger gang. And it's just really sweet to see kids be inspired and, appreciating the environment and what we have to offer here at the park. So thank you for sharing that. I love hearing the happy stories. Oops.
Is the junior ranger program a one-day thing for a visitor, or it had to be the child has to come back several times to do that?
So it can be done either way. So every visitor center site has the junior ranger books. So the Lighthouse, Sailor's Haven, Watch Hill, Smith Point, and the William Floyd Estate, we all have junior ranger books. So you can either do them while you're here, or you can take them home with you and then come back. I believe some of them can even be mailed in, and they'll mail you your badge. But one thing we've been doing more so recently, especially with, COVID and everything, we've been swearing in the parents instead. And then like if your child doesn't finish, we'll swear you in, and then you can swear them in at home. So it's like you're an honorary ranger to swear in your junior ranger. I did see somebody ask if there is a guided tour for birding. So we don't have one weekly, but we do have birding programs. So typically early in the spring and even in the winter, we will do birding programs. I know we've done some at the William Floyd Estate, and I believe we've done some at Sailor's Haven. So I would say check that program calendar. And even social media, like if you have our Facebook or our Instagram, we like to post about our events on there as well. So that's a really good way to find out about upcoming programs. Another question that I received was, are you allowed to remove shells from the beach? So yes, you are, but there is a limit on how many you can take. You are not allowed to fill more than like a gallon bucket, like a kitty litter bucket in a way, more than shells. So as you can take shells, but you just can't take more than like a bucket, like a big bucket's worth. Which I know is like interesting, like how did they come up with that number? But you know, the shells are there to grab, but you just don't want to take too many because the shells do provide calcium carbonate, which goes back into the water and helps other shells, like shellfish, build up their shells. So, and they also provide habitat for like hermit crabs and other small creatures. So you don't want to take too many, but you are allowed to take them. All right, any other questions or comments?
Hey, that was a fantastic presentation. You know, we all thank you for, you know, for your talk and your time, and you know, it gives us an excuse to want to go and visit the National Seashore. So
Yes.
thanks again.
Yeah.
A little round of applause, maybe.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for having me, everybody. I hope you can make it out to Fire Island sometime soon.
Thank you.
Great
Thank you so
presentation.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great presentation. Thanks again.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
You too.
Bye.